Welcome, everybody. I'm Alan Gordon with the Sales Mastermind Association. I appreciate you all being here. The Sales Mastermind Association is divided into two, as everything is divided into two. There's an outer, people outside the Sales Mastermind. When they look at the Sales Mastermind, they would see a sales training organization, which is absolutely true. And as long as I can, I'm going to continue to run a free sales workshop every Tuesday. So be back here next Tuesday, same time. But inside the Sales Mastermind is where we work on inner development and mastermind principles. And we actually explore the power of mind. I have two books that the Sales Mastermind is based on. One is the Big Book of Sales, which many of you might be familiar with. And another book, more recently in 2018, I wrote a book called The Cycle of Mind. And what I teach inside the Mastermind is derivative of what I teach in that book, The Cycle of Mind. So today, and first of all, let me also say, today I want to talk about the power of questions to unlock the sale. Now, one of the things that there are three basic truths of selling, and you can't get around this. And the first basic truth of sales is that all sales is based on trust. And what that means is the customer cannot and will not buy from you if they don't trust you. That's just a psychological fact. If I don't trust you, I'm just not going to do business with you. All sales is based on trust. The second truth of sales is that listening is the foundation of trust. We've talked about listening in some past workshops. And the third truth of sales, which we're really going to dive into here today, is that expert questions uncover opportunities. All sales is based on trust. Listening is the foundation of trust, and expert questions uncover opportunities. So what we're going to talk about today is kind of an agenda. We're going to talk about the power of questions. We're going to find out, number one, why salespeople struggle with asking questions, why listening makes us uncomfortable. I'm going to talk to you specifically about something you can say in the beginning of the call that will set up your opportunity to ask questions. And then finally, I'm going to end with, as we always do, with a mastermind principle, which gets us back to the whole point of the Sales Mastermind Association, because it's based on these mastermind principles. And what we do is we apply these principles to sales. So first of all, selling, it's a lot like playing baseball or playing football. You watch it on TV, it looks really, really easy. You get out there, it's just not as easy as it seems. So this whole idea of becoming a question-based salesperson is really a process. It looks a lot easier than it really is. And so I have a great deal of respect for people that try it and consistently work on it and build themselves. I did that over a period of really decades, learning to listen, learning to ask more questions. But it is a constant trial because we are not born, we're not bred, we're not socialized to listen or to ask questions. And some of the reasons are that we feel like a constant pressure to speak and present. Whenever the customer starts talking, we feel like if they're talking for too long, we have this pressure to start explaining what we do and give our presentation. And that comes, frankly, from the basic problem in sales is we spend so much time trying to find one person who'll talk to us that we're so happy they're going to talk to us that we feel the urgent need to start presenting our solution. The second reason is we've never really been taught to listen. We've never actually listened properly. So it actually does feel a little weird to listen. I think I spelled weird wrong. No, that's weird. I'm not a typo person, but I think there's one there. We've never actually been taught to listen. So it does actually feel different to listen. It's different than our normal behavior. We always think that our questions are intrusive. So we're taught to, dig and do a lot of discovery and needs development. But as we're doing it, we feel like we're intruding on the customer's privacy. And we get the feeling that they don't want to answer our questions. We also feel like the customer is rushed because we're in a rush. So we assume that the customer is in a rush, which sometimes they are, but that prevents us from really asking good questions because we feel like we have an internal clock that's ticking and okay, I need to start talking. And so that blocks us from listening. And sometimes when we ask the right questions and people are talking to us, we just don't care because as at least in our society, we're very, very self-centered and very impatient. Listening and asking questions is not something that comes naturally to most people, which is why I say it looks easier than it really is. It's a process that will take you weeks and months. And if you continue to work on this idea of listening and asking questions and doing deep dive into needs development, you'll get better at it over time. It's not like you snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're much better at it. So here's just one example. I'll give you a few more, but we really don't listen. It would amaze you at how bad salespeople are. Like if this were the major leagues in baseball, 90% of salespeople would be sent back to the minors. They really don't even have basic listening skills. Here's just one example, and this happens a million times a day. Customer, you're talking to the customer tells you, oh, we're having quality problems. Or I know some folks on here sell financial services where, I'm worried about, I'm worried about my inheritance going to the tax man, right? Well, if you tell me you have quality problems, well, you know what, sir, you're not going to have any quality problems with us. We've got, the Mega 500. Let me show you how the Mega 500 works, and it's going to solve all of your quality problems. Just pause for 1 second. Just take a breath for 1 second. When the customer says we're having quality problems, 90% of salespeople will walk right past that. Or they say, I know we have some health insurance people here. I don't like Blue Cross Blue Shield. Well, you're going to love our insurance. Let me explain how it works. And we think we're doing the right thing because we're explaining our product or service. Just think for 1 second. We're having quality problems and you walk right past it. What would be the easiest thing to say at that point? It's called reflecting, or reflect and paraphrase. Reflecting is simply repeating what they said to you with a question mark. So if somebody tells me that they're having quality problems, you know what I would say? I'd say, quality problems? Tell me more. And they start telling you more. And they give you another sentence, and you can reflect and paraphrase on the last word of that sentence. And you can go on and on and on and on. You can probe and clarify. You can key and pivot. You have all different types of questioning techniques that you can use. Keep asking questions. But the problem is 90% of salespeople walk right past these opportunities. It took us so long to get this guy on the phone. Then he tells us we're having quality problems. Well, I can assure you, you're not going to have any quality problems with us. I could just picture that 1950s video. Well, sir, you're not going to have any quality problems with us. The Mega 500 is designed to eliminate quality. Let me explain to you how it goes. Are you in front of a computer? Can I show you how it works? And it sounds funny, but here's another one. Come home from work. Hey, honey, how was your day? Well, it was nice of you to ask, right? I think that's very polite and courteous and thoughtful of you to ask how your husband or wife's day was. And they say, oh, I had a really hectic day. Oh, you think your day was hectic? You won't believe what happened to me today. That's called one-upmanship. You tell me about something and I tell you, oh, that's nothing. Wait till I tell you my story. These two examples, and I'm going to give you a third one. These two examples are examples of red lights. When the customer tries to tell you something, when your husband or wife tries to tell you something, now is the time to ask good questions, not to bring it back to yourself. This is called rebounding to yourself. The second one is called one-upmanship. And here's another one. You'll be talking to a customer, you're quote unquote gaining rapport with the customer, and they'll tell you something. Oh man, I'm so proud my daughter just got accepted into college. And you say, oh, wow, my son just started junior wrestling. I'm so proud of him. We bring it right back to ourselves. We miss opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to ask questions, to really get into the other person, to get on, I call it getting on the other person's wavelength. We're so wrapped up in our own wavelength that when anybody says anything, it doesn't matter. We feel like we have to bring it right back to our wavelength. And what I've said in past training courses, is you have to let go of your wavelength and get down on the customer's wavelength. That's what selling is really about. Here's why being a bad listener is really a big problem. Number one, you don't sell as much. Good listeners sell at least twice as much as people who don't understand how to listen or how to get on the customer's wavelength. And it's very rare to find a good listener. Maybe about 5 or 10% of salespeople are actually very good listeners. Number one, you're going to make more money if you listen. But here's the problem if you don't listen. Not only do you make less money, but if you're a bad listener, if you have these bad listening habits as a salesperson, here's the problem. You have the same bad habits with your husband or wife or your roommate. You have the same bad listening habits with your children. You have the same bad listening habits when your insurance agent is trying to explain something to you. You're not really listening to what they're saying, so you can't really listen. It's almost like it's a handicap. It's almost like it's a disability, except it's a self-imposed disability. But it's not really your fault because society doesn't really value listening, and it really is difficult. It's very, very, very challenging to listen because we're not taught to listen. No one ever really listened to us. Nobody ever taught us how to listen in school. I have a series of videos that I'm putting the finishing touches on, which is a 6-video course in listening that, of course, I'm going to be putting in the members area. But it's never really been taught to us. It took me years. I'm from New York. I'm still working on it. It takes years to transform yourself from a person that has to broadcast on your own wavelength to putting your own wavelength aside. I call it emptying yourself and allowing the other person to speak. And it's hard to do, but I think you can see how if you don't listen, it actually causes a problem and it blocks you from selling. I really wish there were 9 people on the call. I wish there were 9 million people on the call, because I'm going to actually share with you my 2 favorite pivots that I use early in a call. And what these pivots will do is they set me up to be a detective. They set me up to make myself feel comfortable to start asking questions. And here are the 2 pivots that I use, and I use them almost all the time. When the customer says, say you're selling health insurance, and the customer says, oh, I hate Blue Cross Blue Shield. I don't trust anything. You don't say, well, you're going to love our insurance. Blue Cross Blue Shield, forget that. You're going to love our insurance. Let me explain it to you. You say, you know what? When they start complaining, I don't trust salespeople, whatever it is that they say, a complaint, something positive, whatever it might be, even if they start telling you about their problem, whatever it might be, you use this pivot. Well, you know what? We're going to have a conversation about that. We're going to dig into that. Can you tell me what you didn't like about Blue Cross Blue Shield? You mentioned earlier you had some medical. Can you tell me about that? What happened? What was your experience? Or someone tells you, I'm really worried about my children and, getting the inheritance properly and not having to pay taxes on it. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. We're going to have a conversation about that. Tell me, what is it exactly that you're worried about? And you can go on and on and on and on. This pivot allows you, instead of pivoting to your presentation, which is the wrong thing to do, you're going to pivot to opening it up for more questions. Another statement that I've used for years, and I really, really like it, it makes people feel comfortable on the other end of the phone. You have some really interesting issues there. To me, I love this job because every customer is like a puzzle. And I take pride in piecing this all together. So help me understand. You mentioned something earlier. Tell me more about that. This simple pivot into opening the conversation for questions, this one simple pivot will, number one, set you up and make you feel more comfortable about asking questions. Number two, will give you the psychological space to feel comfortable to start becoming a detective and asking questions and getting down to the root of their problem. But most importantly, when you open the conversation to the customer, this is how you build a trust connection. We teach trust-based selling inside the association. We don't teach pressure selling. We don't teach, buyers are liars and you got to, dial the phone twice as much and buy twice. None of that. We want you to connect with every person that you talk to. And the way you connect, it's counterintuitive, is not to tell them how great you are. They don't care about you. They don't care about your company. They don't care about your product. They have a problem and they need to know that you're the person that they can trust to solve the problem. In fact, we all understand they don't have to know everything about your product. They just have to know the basics. But the most important thing is they have to trust you. All sales is based on trust. And listening is the foundation of trust. And for those of you, and I raise my hand, who feel like I always have to be broadcasting on my wavelength, and I'm either impatient, I don't really care about your story, or I feel like I'm wasting your time, or I feel like I'm bothering you, this little pivot early in the phone call will open yourself up and relax the conversation. You know what? We're going to talk more about that. Tell me a little bit. You mentioned this. What did you mean by that? Help me understand. Tell me more. And when they answer, all you have to do is use one word that they used in the sentence called reflecting, and just quality problems. Huh, tell me more about that. Huh, interesting. What else? What else? How do you feel about the quality? You seem pretty upset about those quality problems. That's called empathetic listening, where you identify an emotion. You feel pretty stressed out about your kids not getting the inheritance. Tell me more about that. That's called empathetic listening, because you actually listen to their emotion. They told you they were concerned about something, but you said, "Oh, wow, you seem really upset about that," or "You seem really worried about that. Tell me more." This is how you build a trust connection. And here's the problem with salespeople that don't understand how to build trust. Salespeople that jump right into their presentation, or the ABC salespeople who are always closing. They try to pull out the objection right in the beginning, put pressure on the customer right from the beginning. Here's the problem with that. If you don't build trust in the beginning and the middle of the phone call, or the sales call, or whatever the process is, if you're not building trust in the beginning and the middle, then come to the end, they don't trust you. And it's going to be very difficult for them to move forward. And what happens is that mistrust, or the fact that you skipped the step of trust building, manifests itself as objections. Well, we need to think about, well, my wife's not here. Well, I'm not sure. Well, I want to shop around, get more quotes. Well, I'm not really sure. It's not any of those things. It's, dude, they don't trust you. And why would they? Because as soon as they tried to tell you what was on their mind, you pivoted into your presentation because you're so excited that you finally got somebody to listen to you. If you don't build trust in the beginning and the middle of the call, if you don't make it your mission to build trust in the beginning and the middle of the call, you're not going to have the customer's trust when you really need it, which is at the end. And obviously, if you do a great job at trust, and like I said, it's like golf. It looks easy, but the ball goes slicing into the woods and into the lake. It's not as easy when you get out there. It's a club, a ball, and a hole. How hard can it be? But you find out it's not that easy because what you're doing here is you're making inner changes. You're changing yourself from within to change the way you relate to people. Remember I said, if you're a bad listener in selling, you're a bad listener with your spouse, with your children, and in every situation in life. You don't just turn it on and off. And here's the point. If you can get good at listening in sales, and which is why I love sales, because it's actually an opportunity to develop yourself internally, to kind of change and round out your character, to change yourself internally. When you make this kind of a switch and you start opening it up for conversation with people, you start building trust with your customers, you're going to do the same thing with your spouse and with your children. It really improves every area of your life. To unlocking the sale, there are really 4 things you have to understand when you're selling. Does the customer have a problem that I can fix? In other words, is it a good fit? Are they qualified? Can I really help this person? Does the customer acknowledge the problem? Because I mean, you've seen it many, many times. They have a problem, but they're just not willing to admit it to you, which of course blocks the sale, because they're not willing to acknowledge that they have a problem. Does the customer want to fix the problem? Is it important enough to them? Is it urgent enough to them? Are they interested in, do they feel like they have to fix it? So your job in the beginning is to say, hey, let me find out, tell me more about your situation. I want to see if it's something that I can help you with. You mentioned this. Tell me more about that. What do you mean by that? I want to go back to something you said a few minutes ago. Tell me more about that. What's the impact of that? Oh, wow, you're having quality problems. Tell me more about that. You're frustrated. You seem frustrated by that. Yeah, I'm very frustrated. Do they have a problem that we can fix? And through your skill in asking questions, your job is to get them to say, yes, I actually do have a problem. And yes, it is bothering me. It is costing me money. It is making me unhappy. Whatever it is you're selling, I don't have peace of mind. I do want to fix this problem. Once you get those first 3, then all you have to do is ask the customer permission. Hey, are you willing to take a look at what I have to show you? Because I think I might be able to help you. I spend 99% of the beginning of the time that we're of the beginning of the conversation on the customer's wavelength, identifying the problem, really fleshing it out, really like as if you had a one of those drones and you flew the drone right over the problem, and you circled the drone and you had the camera, and you want to explore every area, every part of their problem. You want to explore it, and you want them to acknowledge. You're not me telling you you have a problem. I need you to tell me that you have a problem. And then I need you to tell me that this is something that's important enough, a high enough priority for you to fix. Make sense? So I know my friends there selling health insurance. Do you have a problem we can fix? Well, yeah, you're paying $2,000 a month on an Obamacare plan. That's a big problem. I can't, that's crazy to have to pay that much money. So yes, I think I can fix your problem. Do they acknowledge they have a problem? How do you feel about $2,000 a month? Is that, so let me see if I understand this, Mr. Customer. You're paying $2,000 a month to insure your family, and you have a $10,000 deductible. Are you okay with that? Hell no, I'm not okay with that. They've acknowledged that they have a problem. Is this something you want to fix? Yeah, well, of course, if you're saving the guy $1,000 a month, of course they want to fix the problem. I think I can help you. With your permission, can I show you what I have? And do you notice how I show you what I have after I've broken you down? I've identified that you're qualified. I've identified that you have said that you've got the problem and you want to fix it. Now you're willing to come on this journey with me. Does that make sense? Questions allow the customer to release all of their psychic energy. When you start a phone call, particularly with cold calling, but even if you're just following up with leads, even if it's the 10th time you've talked to this customer, I don't know if my camera, I don't even know my camera's on. I'll just show you this. The customer starts with this psychic energy, and you have your agenda. Well, the more you push your agenda, the more the customer holds on to their psychic energy, which is their problems, their issues, all the information that they could have given you. When you ask the customer questions, it allows them to release all of that psychic energy and get it all out. And if you don't believe in this idea of psychic energy, then I know you've felt like this. Finally, someone is listening to me. It's the greatest release in the world when somebody listens to you. And I know you've had this experience yourself when somebody is selling you something. They're talking. Then I moved into the home I'm in now. I moved in about 6 months ago. So we've gone on Angie's List and put in, quotes, and 3 salespeople show up. For example, the first project we had was they had to blow insulation in our roof. So 3 salespeople show up. The first one just can't stop talking about his kids. Right? Nice guy, great guy. Just, I guess, trying to bond with me or, have some sort of rapport. Didn't really listen to my problem. Didn't listen to what I was concerned about. Didn't listen to what I was worried about. Didn't listen at all. Gave me a quote. Turns out he actually was the lowest quote. Did I buy from him? Nope. Ended up buying from the third guy because he took me up in the attic, showed me this, showed me that. What are you concerned about? Where are you feeling it? Do you feel it in this room? Is the cold coming in here? Would you want me to do this or this? What's your budget? All that stuff. Turns out he was the most expensive. And I said to him, hey, look, I had some other quotes. Can you meet the other guy's quote? Can you match, I think it was 2,500 versus 2,100. Can you meet 2,100? He said, nope. Because we do this. These other guys, I'm sure they're not doing any of that. And I ended up paying the guy's price. But it feels good to the customer. So you have to put yourself on the customer side of the ledger. When you listen to the customer, it is a huge release for the customer to be able to express themselves. And they really feel this way. Finally, someone's taken the time to listen to me. Good listeners really are very rare. And when you become a good listener, you're going to set yourself apart from all other salespeople. They're going to notice this. They will notice it, even though it might be unconscious. And unconsciously, they're going to respond to you differently. Now, I want to show you this here. Hard closing didn't resonate with me. I didn't want to be that person, so I had to learn a different way to sell. The last 10 or 15 years in particular, I've been doing sales for longer than that. But what I've noticed, usually really kind of with the rise of the internet, the last 10 or 15 years, there's been like a gold rush in this hard selling tactics, this 10X thing, this you got to work harder, buyers are liars. If someone's getting sold, you're either selling them or they're selling you on a no. All of this aggressive tactics. And I don't want to be that person. Most of the people who are listening to me here also don't want to be that person. I had to learn a different way to sell. And what I found was over a long period of time, building trust through listening is the opposite of hard closing. But here's the key. It's just as effective. And I'm going to tell you that when you teach someone, because I teach it, when I teach hard closing, I call it looping or power looping. So I can actually teach someone how to do that. If you're in a store and they're never going to come back, so you have to close them right there. It's called looping. I call it power looping. It's very effective, but you can only teach about 20% of the people to do it, because the other 80%, or certainly more than half, they just resist talking that way to people. They resist this idea of putting on pressure. Building trust through listening, you can teach to anybody, but it's the opposite of hard closing, but it works just as well. People that are good hard closers make a lot of money. They're not exaggerating. They are selling a lot. They're closing a lot. They're making good money. I don't doubt anything they say on their Facebook page. I'm sure they're doing great, but I don't want to be that person. But there's another way to sell. It's like yin and yang. Yin being the negative, the feminine, yang being the masculine. The hard pressure is, they both work. And actually, as I'll show you as we go through this whole process over the period of the next few weeks and months, you'll see that this concept of trust-based closing is soft in the beginning, listening in the beginning, asking questions, which is obviously a passive skill, asking questions, emptying yourself in the beginning, and then being very firm and strong-willed at the end. You can teach someone who does trust-based selling to get firmer in closing, but it's very difficult to teach somebody who's a hard closer and doesn't really care about people, and buyers are liars, dial till they die, double the number. You think 200 dials a day. I did 2,000 today. That just this, it's very difficult to teach them to slow down and listen. But once you learn how to slow down, listen, and ask questions, it's actually easy to learn how to be you have a little bit higher level of willpower on the back end. So as I say, and I think it's like my new tagline, learning to sell is easy. What's hard is learning how to listen. It really does take changes from within. And that's really what we talk about inside the mastermind. How do you change your character, your personality, your habits? How do you build new habits from within? How do you find balance from within? Because if you're imbalanced on the inside, it's very difficult to act balanced while the customer is talking. You're just going to kind of keep jumping in and, broadcasting on your own wavelength. Learning to sell is easy. It is not easy to learn to let go of your own wavelength, to empty yourself and let the customer speak. So I told you that towards the end here, I'm going to share with you a mastermind principle. Trust is a mastermind principle. Everything is based on trust. I told you the 3 truths of selling. All sales is based on trust. Listening is the foundation of trust, and asking effective questions opens up opportunity. Everything, not just sales, everything is based on trust. This is actually from the Sales Mastermind Association. You can go to our About page and you can see the principles, the values and principles that our association is built on. This is principle number 1, trust. No sale can be closed without trust. No organization can succeed without trust. No relationship can flourish without trust. We teach trust-based selling, and we build trust-based companies. That is the purpose, the foundation of the Sales Mastermind. And here's really why trust is a mastermind principle. And this goes a little bit deeper. Like I said, this goes way, way beyond sales. Trust is the glue that connects us as human beings. Anytime that we're going to try to cooperate with one another and work together, we have to trust one another. If we don't trust one another, we can't cooperate. Once we do trust one another, we can then turn our minds together to a higher purpose and a higher goal. And we're going to be able to cooperate and achieve that goal, because I don't have to worry about you taking from me, and you don't have to worry about me taking something from you. We trust one another. And the more people we can bring into the group who all trust one another and all built around that one principle, the more we can cooperate and the more we can succeed. This applies obviously to the mastermind. It applies to companies. You want to build companies built on trust so that all the employees can cooperate, not have to worry that someone's going to get more credit than they are. We're all in this together. Cooperation is built on trust. Listening is the foundation of trust. And listening, I call it the golden skill because it applies to all areas of your life. Listening is the skill that binds us together. And if you can build your life on trust, if you can say, hey, you know what? No matter what anyone says about me 20 years from now in my sales career, you can talk to anybody I talk to, anybody that I talked to for the last 20 years. And the one thing they'll say is, yep, he was true to his word. I did trust him. Whether they bought from me, didn't buy from me, whether the product had quality, whatever it was, the experience, they know that they were able to trust me. I've built my career on trust because I understand that trust is actually the glue. It's the glue that connects all of our human interactions. And listening is the skill that binds us together. And that's why I think it's such an important skill that I call it a mastermind skill. So thank you.